The stars looked different from space. Captain Alexander Freeman knew this, yet he still found himself staring at them whenever he had a quiet moment. Standing on the observation deck of humanity's newest warship, he watched the distant lights twinkle against the black void, wondering which ones might hold enemies and which might hold friends. "Captain, they're ready for you on the bridge." Freeman turned to see his executive officer, Commander Daniel West, standing at attention. West was tall and lean, with a serious face that rarely smiled. But Freeman had served with him for 7 years and knew that beneath that stern exterior was a sharp mind and unwavering loyalty. "Thank you, Commander. Let's not keep them waiting." Freeman straightened his uniform jacket and followed West through the gleaming corridors of the USS Harbinger. The ship was massive, stretching nearly a mile from bow to stern. Its sleek black hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it, making it difficult to see against the darkness of space. Inside, 500 men and women worked around the clock, monitoring systems, running drills, and preparing for their first official deployment. When Freeman stepped onto the bridge, all conversation stopped. The crew stood at attention, their faces a mixture of pride and nervousness. These were the best of Earth's defense fleet handpicked for this mission. "At ease," Freeman said, moving to the captain's chair at the center of the bridge. "Status report." Lieutenant Victoria Nash, the ship's tactical officer, stepped forward. Her red hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her green eyes sharp and focused. "All systems are operational, Captain. Phase shift drive is at 100% capacity. Weapon systems are online and calibrated." Freeman nodded. The phase shift drive was what made the Harbinger special, developed after the Proxima Centauri massacre, where aliens had killed over 10,000 human colonists. The technology allowed the ship to temporarily exist out of sync with normal space-time. When activated, conventional weapons would pass through the Harbinger as if it were a ghost. "Communications?" Freeman asked. "All clear, sir," replied Chief Communications Officer Samantha Lewis. "We're receiving the standard traffic from Earth Command and the outer colonies. Nothing unusual to report." Freeman sat down in his chair, feeling the weight of command settle onto his shoulders. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel 70 years ago, making them newcomers in a galaxy where some species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. What humans lacked in experience, they made up for in adaptability and determination. "Engineering. How's our girl? Holding up?" Freeman asked over the intercom. Chief Engineer Olivia Martinez's voice came through clearly. "She's purring like a kitten, Captain. The new antimatter injectors are performing above expectations. We could outrun anything in this sector if we needed to." "Let's hope it doesn't come to that," Freeman replied. But he appreciated Martinez's confidence. The engineer had been instrumental in developing the Harbinger's revolutionary propulsion system. Commander West moved to stand beside Freeman's chair. "Sir, we've received our patrol route from Command. We're to proceed to the outer rim of human space near the Tau Ceti system." Freeman raised an eyebrow. "Tau Ceti? That's close to Meridian territory." "Yes, sir. The Meridians have been experiencing some difficulties with the Zakthalan Empire. Command thinks our presence might discourage any further aggression." The Zakthalan were 6-limbed beings with bodies composed primarily of silicon rather than carbon. They were known for their advanced technology and their belief that they were superior to all other life forms. They particularly despised what they called soft species, like humans and Meridians. "Plot a course, Commander. Let's show the flag." "Yes, sir." West turned to relay the orders but was interrupted by Lieutenant Nash. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the direction of Tau Ceti. It's consistent with Zakthalan weapons fire." Freeman stood up quickly. "On screen." The main view screen flickered to life, showing a distant star system. As the computer enhanced the image, Freeman could see flashes of light that indicated a battle in progress. "How far?" he asked. 4 light hours, sir," Nash replied. "We could be there in 20 minutes at maximum speed." Freeman hesitated. This would be the Harbinger's first real test. The ship and its crew had performed flawlessly in simulations and exercises, but combat was different. People died in combat. "Sir?" West prompted. "We should inform Earth Command before engaging." "No time," Freeman decided. If those are Meridian ships under attack, they won't last 4 hours for a message to reach Earth, and another 4 for orders to reach us. Freeman looked around the bridge at the young faces watching him expectantly. None of them had seen real combat except for himself and West. They were about to learn what war really meant. Set course for Tau Ceti, maximum speed, sound general, quarters, all hands to battle stations. The alarm began to wail throughout the ship. Crew members who had been relaxing in the mess hall or sleeping in their quarters rushed to their assigned posts. Security Chief Gregory Howard's voice came over the intercom, cool and professional, directing the response teams. Freeman turned to Nash. "Lieutenant, I want a complete tactical analysis of the situation by the time we arrive." "Yes, sir," she replied, already focused on her console. As the Harbinger accelerated toward Tau Ceti, Freeman felt a strange calm settle over him. The ship hummed with energy, its powerful engines pushing it faster than any human vessel had gone before. In the medical bay, Dr. Kimberly Rodriguez and her team prepared for casualties, checking supplies and equipment. "Captain," West said quietly, "if this is a Zicthalan attack force, we could be outnumbered." Freeman nodded. "I know, but that's why we built this ship, isn't it? To stand up for ourselves and others who can't. The Harbinger against the might of the Zicthalan Empire," West mused. "They won't know what hit them." Freeman hoped his XO was right. In 20 minutes, they would either make history or become a footnote in it. Either way, after today, the name Harbinger would mean something new in the galaxy. The stars streaked, passed on the view screen as the mighty ship raced toward its destiny. The Harbinger dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a flash of blue light. The main screen on the bridge showed the Tau Ceti system spread out before them. What they saw made even the most hardened crew members catch their breath. A massive, Zicthalan assault fleet was attacking a small Meridian settlement on the third planet. 12 warships, including a dreadnought nearly twice the size of the Harbinger, surrounded the planet. Green beams of energy rained down on the surface, leaving blackened craters where they struck. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Nash. Her fingers flew across her console as she analyzed the enemy fleet. "Captain, I count 12 Zicthalan vessels. The largest is a Titan-class dreadnought. They're destroying everything." "Captain," Freeman stood up from his chair, his face grim. "Life signs on the planet?" "Approximately 10,000 Meridians, sir. Their defensive shields are failing. They'll be wiped out within the hour if we don't intervene." The Meridians were a peaceful species known for their telepathic abilities and advanced medicine. They had been among the first alien races to welcome humans to the galactic community, sharing their knowledge freely. Commander West moved to stand beside Freeman. "Sir, we're outnumbered 12-1. Even with our advanced technology, those are not good odds." Freeman nodded. "I know, Commander, but we didn't come all this way to watch a massacre." He turned to face the bridge crew. "Battle stations. Prepare phase shift drive for combat conditions." The bridge erupted into activity. Security Chief Howard's voice came over the intercom, ordering damage control teams to stand by positions. In engineering, Chief Martinez and her team prepared the experimental drive for its first true test. "Weapon status?" Freeman asked. "Cascade. Cannons charged and ready," Nash replied. "Point defense systems online. Quantum torpedoes armed." Freeman took a deep breath. The Cascade cannons were another new technology, designed specifically to penetrate the advanced shields used by species like the Zicthalan. No one knew for certain how effective they would be in actual combat. Communications. Any response from the Zicthalan fleet? Officer Lewis looked up from her station. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, sir. It's a declaration of cleansing. They're claiming the Meridians are unfit to exist in this sector." Freeman's jaw tightened. "Send this message. Zicthalan fleet, this is Captain Alexander Freeman of the Earth defense ship Harbinger. Cease your attack on the Meridian settlement immediately, or face the consequences." Lewis sent the message. The response came almost instantly. They say, "Soft creatures have no authority here. Depart or be destroyed alongside the lesser beings." Lewis looked up. "They've locked weapons on us, Captain." Freeman nodded. "As expected. Commander West, tactical approach pattern Delta. Lieutenant Nash, target the nearest destroyer. Let's show them what humanity brings to a fight." The Harbinger surged forward, its engines pushing it to combat speed. The nearest Zakathalan destroyer broke formation to intercept, its weapons ports glowing with energy. "They're firing," Nash called out. Freeman gave the order they had all been waiting for. "Activate phase shift." Engineer Martinez's voice came over the comm. "Phase shift activated, Captain." A strange sensation passed through the ship as the phase shift drive engaged. The hull seemed to shimmer, becoming slightly transparent. On the view screen, the bright energy beams from the Zakathalan destroyer passed harmlessly through the Harbinger, continuing into empty space. "Direct hit. No effect," Nash reported, excitement in her voice. "The phase shift is working perfectly." West allowed himself a small smile. "They look confused, Captain. Their sensors are trying to lock onto us again." "Let's not give them time to figure it out," Freeman said. "Lieutenant Nash, fire cascade cannons full power." The Harbinger's main weapons discharged, sending brilliant white beams toward the Zakathalan destroyer. The alien ship's shields flared purple as they tried to absorb the energy. For a moment it seemed like they might hold. Then, with a flash of light, they collapsed. The cascade beams cut through the destroyer's hull like it was paper, splitting the ship in two. A cheer went up from the bridge crew, quickly silenced by Freeman's raised hand. "One down, 11 to go," he said. "And now we have their attention." Indeed, the rest of the Zakathalan fleet had broken off their attack on the planet and was turning to face the Harbinger. The massive dreadnought led the way, its weapons already charging. "They're coordinating their fire, sir," Nash warned. "Multiple weapons locks." "Keep the phase shift active," Freeman ordered. "Martinez, how long can we maintain it?" 15 minutes at current power levels, Captain," came the reply. "The system wasn't designed for extended use." Freeman nodded. "Then we make those 15 minutes count. Commander West, attack pattern Omega. Take us straight at that dreadnought." West looked surprised. "Sir, at that range, if the phase shift fails." "It won't," Freeman said with confidence he didn't entirely feel. "Trust our ship, Commander." The Harbinger accelerated toward the heart of the Zakathalan fleet. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes flashed through space, all passing harmlessly through the phase-shifted human vessel. "Distance to Dreadnought 2,000 kilometers, Nash reported. "Cascade cannons recharged and ready." "Target their main reactor," Freeman ordered. "Full power." The Harbinger fired again. This time the cascade beams struck the Dreadnought's central section. The massive ship's shields held for several seconds before finally giving way. The beams penetrated deep into the vessel, finding their target. The Dreadnought's reactor went critical. The explosion started from within, blossoming outward in a sphere of energy that consumed nearly half the massive ship. Secondary explosions followed as ammunition stores and fuel cells ignited. "Dreadnought critically damaged, sir," Nash reported. "They're losing power across all systems." 2 minutes of phase shift remaining, Captain," Martinez warned from engineering. "The system's heating up faster than expected." Freeman studied the tactical display. The remaining Zakathalan ships were in disarray, their formation broken. Some were already turning to flee. "Target the next largest vessel," Freeman ordered. "We're going to make an impression they won't forget." For the next 2 minutes, the Harbinger moved through the Zakathalan fleet like an avenging ghost. 4 more enemy ships were destroyed or disabled before Martinez's urgent voice came over the comm. "Phase shift failing, Captain. We need to drop out now." "Understood," Freeman replied. "Deactivate phase shift. Nash, evasive maneuvers." The Harbinger became fully solid again just as the remaining Zakathalan ships opened fire. Most of the shots missed as Nash guided the ship through a series of tight turns. "1 hit to our aft shields," West reported. "Holding at 80%. The few remaining Zakathalan vessels were retreating now, accelerating away from the battle, at maximum speed. Within minutes they had jumped to faster than light, leaving behind the wreckage of their fleet. A hush fell over the bridge as the crew realized what they had accomplished. In less than 15 minutes they had destroyed or disabled 7 enemy vessels, including a dreadnought, without taking significant damage. "Captain," Lewis called from her station. "I'm receiving a transmission from the Meridian settlement. They're requesting to speak with you." Captain Freeman stood before the main viewing screen. watching as the face of the Meridian Elder appeared. Meridians looked almost human, except for their silver skin and large, pupilless eyes that shimmered with an inner light. This Elder's face was lined with age, his expression a mixture of gratitude and something else, something that looked like fear. "Captain Freeman of Earth," the Elder said, his voice musical despite the translator. "We thank you for your intervention. Without the Harbinger, our settlement would have been destroyed. We're glad we could help," Freeman replied. "The Zakthalan attack was unprovoked. Earth stands with peaceful species like the Meridians." The Elder was quiet for a moment. "The attack may have been unprovoked, but it was not unexpected. The Zakthalan Empire has been growing more aggressive in recent months. Many believe they are being encouraged by forces within the Galactic Concord." Commander West frowned at this. The Galactic Concord was supposed to be a peacekeeping organization made up of the oldest and most advanced species in the galaxy. If they were behind the attacks, that changed everything. "We will report this to Earth Command," Freeman assured the Elder. "In the meantime, we'll remain in orbit to ensure your safety." The Elder's silver eyes seemed to look through Freeman, rather than at him. "Captain, you should know that recordings of this battle are already spreading across galactic networks. What your ship did today, it will change things. The Harbinger will bring change, but at what cost to your species?" So, with those cryptic words, the Elder ended the transmission. The bridge crew exchanged uncomfortable glances. "Well, that was ominous," Lieutenant Nash said, breaking the silence. "He's just shaken up," Freeman replied, though he wasn't entirely convinced. "Let's focus on repairs and get ready in case those Zakthalan ships come back with friends." The next 6 months passed in a blur of activity. The Harbinger responded to distress calls, patrolled disputed borders, and occasionally engaged hostile forces. Each time the result was the same. The human ship's phase shift technology made it virtually invulnerable, while its cascade cannons cut through enemy defenses like they weren't there. Recordings of the battles spread across the galaxy. In bars and meeting halls on 1,000 worlds, aliens watched in awe and fear as the dark ship appeared out of nowhere, shrugged off weapons fire that would destroy any other vessel, and then vanished again, leaving destruction in its wake. Chief Communications Officer Samantha Lewis discovered something interesting during her regular monitoring of galactic communications. "Captain, you need to see this," she said, walking onto the bridge with a datapad. "The word Harbinger has been adopted, untranslated, into 17 different alien languages. It's becoming synonymous with doom or unstoppable force." Freeman took the pad, scanning the information. "That's concerning." "Sir," Lewis continued, "there's more. Various governments have issued formal protest to Earth, claiming our ship represents an unconscionable escalation in warfare technology. Some are demanding we decommission the Harbinger." Freeman handed the pad back. "That's not going to happen. If they wanted peace, they shouldn't have massacred our colonists at Proxima Centauri." The crew was changing too. Some, like Security Chief Gregory Howard, embraced their fearsome reputation. Howard had taken to wearing a patch on his uniform showing the Harbinger silhouetted against a field of stars, with the words, "We bring the doom," stitched below. Others, like ship's doctor Kimberly Rodriguez, worried about the psychological impact of being viewed as monsters by the rest of the galaxy. "They're afraid of us, Captain," she told Freeman during one of his routine checkups. "Not just our enemies, everyone." Is that really what we want? For humanity to be feared rather than respected? Freeman had no easy answer. He understood her concerns, but he had also seen what happened when humanity appeared weak. The graves on Proxima Centauri were testament to that. The Harbinger was docked at Earth's orbital station when new orders came through. Commander West brought them directly to Freeman's quarters. "We're being sent to patrol the borders alone," West said, looking troubled. "No support ships, no backup. Just us against anyone who might threaten human space." Freeman studied the orders. "They're using us as a deterrent. One ship instead of a fleet." "It's more than that," West argued. "Look at the patrol route. We're being kept as far from Earth as possible while still technically protecting human space. It's like they're embarrassed by us." Before Freeman could respond, Lieutenant Nash's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, Commander, you're needed on the bridge. Lieutenant Lewis has found something important." When they arrived on the bridge, Lewis was hunched over her console, her face pale. "I've been monitoring Zekathalan communications, trying to piece together why they attacked the Meridians. I finally managed to decrypt some high-level messages." She looked up at Freeman. "Sir, the attack wasn't random. It was part of a larger campaign orchestrated by the Galactic Concord." "The Peacekeepers?" West asked, incredulous. "Why would they want to start a war?" "Not start a war," Lewis explained. "Control 1. The Concord has been manipulating conflicts across the galaxy for centuries, keeping younger species fighting each other instead of developing too quickly. They're afraid of us, of what humanity might become." Freeman was about to ask for more details when the ship's alert system activated. "Captain," Nash called from her station, "we're receiving a distress call from Research Station Darwin in the Epsilon Indy system. They're under attack." "Set a course, maximum speed," Freeman ordered immediately. "Battle stations." The Harbinger broke orbit and accelerated to faster than light speed. But when they arrived at Epsilon Indy, they found no research station under attack. Instead, a fleet of 20 ships waited for them, their weapons already charged. "It's a trap," West said. Quietly, Freeman nodded. "I can see that. The question is, who set it?" Nash studied her sensors. "Sir, those ships represent 5 different species. Zicthalan, Arcturan, Vega Collective, Sirius Compact, and... Sir, that's a Concord enforcement vessel." "Open a channel," Freeman ordered. Lewis complied, and the main screen filled with the image of a tall, thin alien with blue-green skin and 4 arms, an Arcturan admiral. "Captain Freeman," the admiral said, his voice cold. "This coalition has been authorized by the Galactic Concord to demand the immediate surrender of the warship. Harbinger, your phase shift technology and cascade weapons violate galactic non-proliferation treaties. Surrender your vessel and prepare to be boarded." Freeman stood up from his chair, his face set in determination. "Admiral, the Harbinger is a ship of the Earth Defense Fleet. We do not recognize the authority of the Galactic Concord over human technology or human space. If you attempt to board this vessel, we will consider it an act of war." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "You are outnumbered 20 to 1, Captain. Even your miraculous ship cannot survive such odds. I will give you 1 standard hour to reconsider before we open fire." The transmission ended. Freeman turned to face his crew. "Opinions?" he asked simply. Nash spoke first. "Their ships are positioned to catch us in a crossfire. If we try to phase shift through one group, the others will target our exit vector. The phase shift drive needs 8 minutes to recharge between uses," West added. "They know our capabilities now." Freeman nodded. "So they think. Chief Martinez, how quickly can you get the phase shift drive ready for multiple consecutive jumps?" Martinez's voice came over the intercom, confident as always. 4 minutes if I push the system to its limits, Captain. But the stress might damage the drive permanently." "Do it," Freeman ordered. "We're going to show this coalition what happens when you corner a human." As the crew prepared for battle, Freeman stared at the enemy fleet on the view screen. The Harbinger had become infamous, feared throughout the galaxy. Today they would show the galaxy why that fear was justified. Time seemed to slow down as the 1-hour ultimatum approached its end. On the bridge of the Harbinger, Captain Freeman reviewed the battle plan with his officers one final time. "We'll execute a series of 4 short phase shifts," he explained, pointing to the tactical display. "First to this position behind the Zicthalan cruisers, fire, then shift to the Arcturan flank, fire again, then to the Vega ships, and finally to the Concord enforcement vessel." Lieutenant Nash studied the plan with a critical eye. "The timing will be crucial, Captain. If we're off by even a few seconds, we could rematerialize inside an enemy ship, or they could adjust their positions to catch us as we exit phase shift," Commander West added. Freeman nodded. "That's why we need perfect execution." "Martinez, status of the phase shift drive?" Chief Engineer Martinez's voice came over the comm, strained but determined. We've bypassed the safety protocols, Captain. The drive will operate at 130% of rated capacity. We should get 4 jumps out of it before it burns out completely. And after that? Freeman asked. After that, we fight. The old-fashioned way, Martinez replied, or we don't come home. The intercom chimed and Lewis spoke from her communications station. Captain, we're being hailed. The hour is up. On screen, Freeman ordered. The Arcturan admiral appeared again. His forearms crossed in what Freeman recognized as a gesture of finality. Captain Freeman, have you reconsidered your position? I have, Freeman replied calmly. And my answer remains the same. The Harbinger will not surrender. The admiral's skin darkened with anger. Then you leave us no choice. All ships open. Freeman made a slashing motion across his throat and Lewis cut the transmission. Activate phase shift drive, execute battle plan Alpha. The familiar shimmering feeling passed through the ship as it shifted partially out of normal space-time. On the view screen, the enemy fleet's weapons discharged, their energy beams passing harmlessly through the now ghostly Harbinger. Phase shift stable, Nash reported. Ready for jump sequence. Execute jump 1, Freeman ordered. The stars blurred as the Harbinger vanished from its position and reappeared behind the Zakathalan cruisers. The alien ships were still facing the wrong direction, their sensors confused by the sudden disappearance of their target. Fire cascade cannons targets 1 through 3, Freeman ordered. The Harbinger's main weapons discharged. 3 brilliant white beams struck the Zakathalan cruisers from behind, bypassing their strongest shields. 2 ships exploded immediately, while the third spun out of control, venting atmosphere and debris. Jump 2, execute. Again the Harbinger vanished, reappearing on the flank of the Arcturan formation. This time the enemy was starting to react, their ships turning to bring weapons to bear. But they were too slow. Fire cascade cannons, targets 4 through 6. Launch quantum torpedoes, targets 7 and 8. The Arcturan ships stood no chance. The cascade cannons tore through their defenses while the quantum torpedoes, another human innovation, created localized ruptures in space-time that shredded anything caught in their blast radius. On the IDE bridge, warning lights began to flash. Phase shift drive reaching critical temperature, West reported. Martinez says we need to complete the sequence quickly. Jump 3, execute. The Harbinger shifted to the Vega position, but this time the alien ships were ready. As soon as the human ship reappeared, a dozen energy beams converged on its position. Most passed through the phase-shifted hull, but 2 managed to connect. As the ship became solid enough to fire its weapons, the bridge shook violently. Hull breach on deck 4, Security Chief Howard reported over the comm. Emergency force fields holding. 3 crew members injured. Return fire, all weapons. Freeman ordered, gripping his chair as the ship rocked again. The Harbinger's cascade cannons fired, joined by conventional beam weapons and a full spread of quantum torpedoes. The Vega formation disintegrated, their ships torn apart by the human vessel's superior firepower. Phase shift drive at maximum temperature, West warned. Martinez says if we make the 4th jump, we won't be able to phase shift again. Freeman hesitated. The plan called for 1 more jump to take out the Concorde enforcement vessel, the most dangerous ship in the enemy fleet. But without the phase shift ability, the Harbinger would be vulnerable to the remaining enemy vessels. We need to finish this, he decided. Jump 4, execute. The Harbinger made its final phase shift, appearing directly in front of the massive Concorde vessel. Twice the size of the human ship, the enforcement vessel bristled with weapons and was protected by the most advanced shields in the galaxy. Fire everything we have, Freeman ordered. Target their command center. The Harbinger unleashed its full arsenal. The cascade cannons fired continuously, joined by every beam weapon, missile, and torpedo the ship could deploy. The Concorde vessel's shields flared brilliant blue as they absorbed the assault. For several seconds, it seemed they would hold. Then, with a flash visible across the entire system, the shields collapsed. The Harbinger's weapons tore into the alien ship, ripping through armor and internal systems. Secondary explosions blossomed along its length as power conduits overloaded. But The conquered ship wasn't finished. Even as it died, it fired one last weapon, a gravitational distortion device that the Harbinger's sensors hadn't detected. "Incoming!" Nash shouted. "Unknown weapon type." The invisible wave struck the Harbinger with devastating force. The phase shift drive exploded, sending a surge of energy through the ship's power grid. Consoles sparked and blew out across the bridge. The lights failed, replaced moments later by dim emergency lighting. Freeman picked himself up from the floor, tasting blood in his mouth. "Damage report." West staggered to a still-functioning console. "Phase shift drive destroyed. Main power down to 40%. Weapons at 60%. We have casualties on all decks." He looked up, his face illuminated by the red emergency lights. "Sir, the conquered vessel is destroyed, but we still have 8 enemy ships out there." Freeman nodded grimly. The Harbinger had accomplished the impossible, destroying 12 ships from a fleet of 20, but without the phase shift drive, the remaining 8 might be enough to finish them. "Sir," Lewis called from her damaged communication station, "I'm picking up new ships entering the system. At least 15 vessels just dropped out of FTL." Freeman's heart sank. Reinforcements for the enemy. This was it then. "Put them on screen," he ordered, determined to face their end with dignity. The view screen flickered to life, showing the new arrivals. Freeman stared in disbelief. The ships were human, Earth Defense Fleet vessels led by 3 ships that looked remarkably like the Harbinger. "Captain Freeman," a familiar voice said over the comm. "Admiral Zhao, Earth Command. Sorry we're late to the party. The USS Reckoning, USS Judgment, and USS Vengeance are here to assist. Hold your position. We'll handle the cleanup." As Freeman watched, the 3 new phase shift-equipped vessels engaged the remaining enemy ships. The battle was over in minutes. The coalition fleet completely destroyed or in retreat. Dr. Rodriguez entered the bridge, her medical uniform stained with blood. "Captain, we have 12 dead, 37 wounded, 5 critical." Freeman nodded, the victory suddenly tasting like ashes. "Thank you, Doctor. Do what you can for them." "The Admiral is requesting permission to come aboard," Lewis reported. "Granted," Freeman replied. "Commander West, you have the bridge. I'll meet the Admiral in what's left of our docking bay." As Freeman walked through the damaged corridors of his ship, he passed crew members working to repair systems and treat the wounded. Despite their injuries and exhaustion, they stood a little straighter as he passed. Their faces showed pride, mixed with a new emotion, a grim understanding of what they had become. The Harbinger had lived up to its name. It had brought doom to its enemies, but also change to the galaxy. And that change was just beginning. 6 months after the battle at Epsilon Indi, Earth found itself at the center of a galactic crisis. The destruction of the Concord enforcement vessel had sent shockwaves through the interstellar community. The Galactic Concord, an organization that had maintained its control over younger species for millennia, was now openly calling for humanity's containment. The Harbinger, now repaired and upgraded with an improved phase shift drive, orbited Earth alongside 6 sister ships. What had begun as one experimental vessel had become a fleet. Each ship bore a name that spoke of humanity's new role in the galaxy: Harbinger, Reckoning, Judgment, Vengeance, Retribution, Consequence, and Justice. Captain Freeman, now wearing the insignia of an admiral, stood in the Harbinger's observation lounge with Dr. Rodriguez, watching as ships from across the galaxy arrived in Earth orbit for the emergency summit. "Never thought I'd see the day," Freeman said quietly. "Representatives from 50 species coming to Earth to talk about the future of galactic governance." Rodriguez studied his face. The last year had aged him. His hair was now streaked with gray and new lines marked his features. The prosthetic right arm, a replacement for the limb he'd lost during a boarding action 3 months ago, gleamed dully in the light from Earth below. "Are you ready for this?" she asked. Freeman turned from the viewport. "Does it matter? We started something when we built this ship. Now we have to see it through." Their conversation was interrupted by Commander West entering the lounge. "Admiral, it's time. The delegates are assembling in the United Nations chamber." Freeman nodded. "Thank you, Commander. How's Lieutenant Nash holding up?" "Still in surgery, sir. Dr. Chen says she'll recover, but it'll be weeks before she's back on duty. Nash had been critically injured during their last mission, an ambush, by conquered loyalists that had nearly cost the Harbinger her tactical officer. It was one more debt Freeman planned to settle. As Freeman prepared to beam down to Earth for the summit, reports came in from across the outer colonies. The Conquered had launched a desperate all-out attack on humanity. Over 300 vessels from 24 species were heading toward Earth, in what could only be described as an extinction fleet. The emergency alert sounded throughout the Harbinger. Freeman rushed to the bridge, all thoughts of the peace summit forgotten. "Status report," he demanded as he entered. West looked up from the tactical station. "Long-range sensors have confirmed it, sir. The Conquered has assembled the largest battle fleet ever recorded. They're 6 hours from Earth at their current speed. Alert Earth Command. Get me a direct line to the other captains." Freeman's voice was steady, but everyone on the bridge could sense the tension behind it. Within minutes, the captains of the other phase shift vessels appeared on the main screen. Freeman addressed them without preamble. "You've all seen the reports. The Conquered is coming to end the human threat once and for all. We have 40 ships ready to defend Earth, 7 of them equipped with phase shift technology. The enemy has over 300 vessels. The odds are not in our favor." Captain Olivia Kelly of the USS Justice spoke first. "My crew is ready, Admiral. The Justice may be the newest ship in the fleet, but we know what's at stake." "The Vengeance stands with you," added Captain John Powell. "We've upgraded our Cascade cannons with the new frequency modulators. They'll cut through Conquered shields like they're not even there." Each captain reported in, their faces grim but determined. These were the best officers Earth had to offer, commanding the most advanced ships humans had ever built. "We need a plan," Captain Alan Winters of the Reckoning said. "Even with our technology, we can't take on their entire fleet head-on." Freeman nodded. "I've been studying the Conquered battle tactics. They rely on overwhelming force and rigid formations. We'll use that against them." He transmitted a battle plan to each ship. "We'll divide their fleet, create chaos in their ranks, and target their command vessels. If we can eliminate their leadership, the rest will falter." As the captains reviewed the plan, Engineer Martinez contacted Freeman from the engine room. "Admiral, I've pushed the phase shift drive beyond its design limits. We can now maintain phase for 8 minutes instead of 4. But there's a cost. Each use puts enormous strain on the drive. We might only get 3 or 4 shifts before it fails completely." "Understood, Chief. Make them count." The Earth Defense Fleet moved into position, forming a protective barrier between the approaching Conquered Armada and the blue planet behind them. On the Harbinger's bridge, Freeman addressed his crew for what might be the final time. 4 years ago, when I took command of this ship, I told you that we were going to change humanity's place in the galaxy. I didn't realize then just how true that would be. The Harbinger was built to defend Earth, to ensure that what happened at Proxima Centauri never happened again. Today we face a force that wants to push humanity back into the Stone Age, or eliminate us entirely. He paused, looking at each officer in turn. They fear us because we refuse to accept the limitations they tried to place on us. They call us Harbingers of Doom, but today we will be Harbingers of Freedom instead, not just for humanity, but for every species that has lived under Conquered dominance. The crew stood a little straighter at his words. Even those who had questioned their role as the galaxy's boogeyman understood what was at stake. The battle began exactly as Freeman had predicted. The Conquered fleet arrived in perfect formation, their massive numbers filling the view screen from edge to edge. The human ships looked tiny in comparison, like insects facing a forest fire. "All ships execute Battle Plan Omega," Freeman ordered. "Phase shift on my mark." Mark. The 7 phase shift vessels disappeared simultaneously, only to reappear at key points throughout the Conquered formation. The Harbinger materialized in the heart of the enemy command group. Before the alien vessels could react, the human ship unleashed its Cascade cannons, destroying 3 command cruisers in rapid succession. Across the battlefield, the other phase shift ships struck with similar precision, targeting engines, weapons, and command centers. The rigid Conquered formation began to break apart as ships lost contact with their leadership, but the aliens were not helpless. New weapons designed specifically to counter phase shift technology found their targets. The USS Justice was the first to fall, caught by a temporal distortion field that forced it back into normal spacetime. Surrounded by enemy ships, it fought valiantly before a concentrated attack overwhelmed its shields. "The Justice is gone," West reported, his voice tight. "Captain Kelly and her crew, they didn't make it." Freeman had no time to mourn. "Continue. The attack pattern. All ships focus fire on the conquered flagship." The battle raged for hours. Human ingenuity and advanced technology against alien numbers and determination. The Harbinger phased in and out of normal space, striking and retreating, always one step ahead of the enemy. Then disaster struck. Commander West, who had gone to lead a damage control team, was killed when a Concorde beam penetrated the hull. Lieutenant Nash, still recovering from her injuries, dragged herself to the tactical station to take his place. "The phase shift drive is failing," Martinez reported. "One more jump, maybe two if we're lucky." Freeman made his decision. "All ships focus everything on the conquered Supreme vessel. It's our last chance to break them." In a coordinated attack, the remaining human ships converged on the massive alien vessel at the heart of the enemy fleet. The Harbinger led the way, using its final phase shift to bypass the outer defenses and strike directly at the Supreme vessel's command center. The explosion was visible from Earth. The Concorde leadership was destroyed in an instant, leaving their fleet without direction. Across the battlefield, alien ships began to retreat, jumping to faster-than-light speeds to escape the human vessels that had somehow defeated their overwhelming numbers. On the Harbinger's bridge, emergency systems fought to contain multiple hull breaches. The phase shift drive was gone, most weapons were offline, and life support was failing on 3 decks. But they had won. 1 month later, representatives from over 70 species gathered on Earth to sign the new Galactic Charter. The Galactic Concord was dissolved, replaced by an alliance in which all spacefaring civilizations had an equal voice. Admiral Freeman, leaning on a cane as he recovered from his latest injuries, stood on the observation deck with Dr. Rodriguez, watching as ships from former enemy species arrived peacefully at Earth for the first time. "Was it worth it?" she asked, looking at the stars beyond the fleet. Freeman watched as young species previously suppressed by the conquered mingled with the older civilizations as equals for the first time. "We named her well," he replied. "She was a harbinger, but not of doom, of change. And the galaxy needed that more than anything." The Harbinger's legacy was secured, no longer feared as an instrument of destruction, but respected as the catalyst that forced a stagnant galactic order to evolve. Humanity took its place among the stars not as conquerors, but as liberators who refused to accept the limitations others tried to impose upon them. As night fell over Earth, the Harbinger remained in orbit, a silent guardian of the new era it had helped create. Its name would be remembered not with fear but with gratitude, by countless civilizations now free to forge their own destinies among the stars.